17 Tottenham Hotspur first-team players are now on international duty. The Daily Telegraph and TalkSport have both stated that pressure is mounting on boss Ange Postecoglou, and Andoni, Iraola and Marco Silva are the leading candidates to take over at Spurs if Tottenham Hotspur make a decision to part ways with Postecoglou. A former Tottenham Hotspur scout has turned around and said that Christian Romero has been linked to Real Madrid and Spurs will be looking for a centre-back in the summer transfer window. And a former Tottenham Hotspur manager has come out and said that Ange Postecoglou must win the Europa League this season in order to keep his job. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all keeping well. This is another edition of Tottenham News, where I'll be going through all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do that follow button and leave a review if you can. Now let's start by talking about some of the players and Postecoglou's reaction to the 2-0 defeat at Fulham on Sunday afternoon. Lucas Bergval's written the following on social media: "We know that this is not good enough. We will come back stronger after the break. Thank you for your support as always." Dominic Solanke has come out and said, "We need to find consistency. There is work to do when we get back after the international break." And Ange Postecoglou has come out and said, "It has been a difficult campaign for sure. We have lost too many games that we should have got stuff out of, and this was one of those games." So let's talk a little bit about Tottenham Hotspur boss Ange Postecoglou. Italian journalist and transfer expert Fabrizio Romano was asked the question, will Tottenham consider Ange Postecoglou's future in the summer after 15 league defeats this season? His reply was, at the moment, Tottenham's full focus is on the present, especially the Europa League, as a critical target for Spurs this season. Nothing else coming from sources close to the club. Former Tottenham Hotspur midfielder Jamie O'Hara, now of course pundit with TalkSport and Sky Sports. He has been talking about Postecoglou and the performance at Fulham on Sunday. He said it was a really poor performance again from Spurs, inconsistent all season, no real edge to our game. Ange Postecoglou is clinging onto his job right now. If we go out of the Europa League to Frankfurt, I think it is probably see you later to Ange Postecoglou at Spurs. And former Tottenham Hotspur boss Harry Redknapp has come out and said Ange Postecoglou must win the Europa League to keep his job at Spurs. The Daily Telegraph have just reported that Andoni, Iraola and Marco Silva are the leading candidates to replace Ange Postecoglou if Tottenham Hotspur let Postecoglou go, as pressure is mounting on the Australian boss. The Daily Telegraph have stated that sources close to Iraola have stated he would be interested in the Tottenham Hotspur job. Now for some interesting stats. Opta have given Athletic Bilbao a 22.4% chance of winning this season's Europa League. Lazio are next on the list with a 21.5% chance. Tottenham are listed third with an 18.4% chance. And Manchester United are listed fourth with a 13.3% chance. Reports in Spain are stating that Tottenham Hotspur winger Bryan Hill, currently out on loan, he has picked up a knee injury and he is now waiting to see if he requires surgery. It is expected that he will miss the remainder of the 2024-2025 season. Italian journalist and transfer expert Fabrizio Romano has been talking about Tottenham Hotspur star Tell. He has stated that Tottenham are very happy with Tell, with his attitude and his potential. That is why that the club are fighting for weeks to sign him in the January transfer window. Fabrizio Romano has also stated at the moment their indication remains, as Ange Postecoglou always says, that they trust him for the future. So it's now the international break. 12 Tottenham Hotspur first-team players have been called up by the senior squads for their international countries. Son, Basuma, Bergvall, Romero, Solanke, Porro, Johnson, Davis, Bentancur, Sarr, Vicario and Udogi. And 5 players from the first team have been called up by their respective countries at youth level. Scarlett, Gray, Moore, Odebear and Tell. A former Tottenham Hotspur scout has been talking to the Football Insider about Tottenham Hotspur and the summer transfer window. Mick Brown has stated that Tottenham want to sign a top-class centre-back when the window opens. They don't need a might-be player, they need a solid centre-half. If they can bring in a player like that, it will allow them to pair him with Mickey van der Ven and create a really strong partnership at the back. I've heard that Christian Romero has been mentioned in connection with a move to Real Madrid as well, so that is going to add to their need to sign a new option. Mick Brown then goes on to say, so the Tottenham Hotspur scouts will be looking to see what options will be available for them. They missed out on signing Mark Gay in January from Crystal Palace. He would have been the perfect option. Tottenham haven't been good enough defensively this season. It is an area they have to address. If they're going to stick with Postecoglou, they have to back him to strengthen the team and make sure he can get the players he wants. TalkSport have just reported that Tottenham have top target to replace Ange Postecoglou as he clings on to his job. The report states that Tottenham have a list of potential replacements if they decide to part company with Postecoglou. He faces having to win the Europa League now to save his job after Spurs slumped at a 15th Premier League defeat of the season at Fulham on Sunday. TalkSport have stated that sources have told TalkSport that Bournemouth boss Andoni Iraola would be Spurs chairman Daniel Levy's top target. Marco Silva and Thomas Frank of Fulham and Brentford, respectively, are other potential targets, although both have hefty release clauses in their contracts. Postecoglou is only in his second season at Spurs, although it's been a campaign in which he's dealt with various injury issues. However, should results continue to fall below expectations, then the club hierarchy could find themselves deciding to part. TalkSport have also stated here most Tottenham losses in a Premier League season. Number 1 was 93-94, where we played 42 games, and also the 03-04 season, and that was 19 defeats. Second on the list is 96-97, and that was 18 defeats. Third on the list, 97-98, 01-02, 02-03, and that was 16 defeats. And then fourth now on the list, and it includes this season, 15 defeats. Also in the 92-93 season, 99-2000, 2001, 08-09, and 24-25. Now, my thoughts on everything in this episode. Let's start by talking about the reports from the Daily Telegraph and TalkSport. They are stating that Daniel Levy is a fan of Andoni Iraola and Marco Silva at the moment if the board do make a decision to part ways with Ange Postecoglou as pressure is mounting. We all knew as Spurs fans that it was all about the cups this season, certainly in the last couple of months, because we had lost an awful lot of Premier League games. We have now lost 15 Premier League games. That is not good enough. Ange Postecoglou even said on Sunday that is unacceptable, and we are nowhere near the levels that we should be. It is unacceptable losing 15 Premier League games in a season. We still have 9 games left, so that could rise, that figure. Let's hope not, but it could. So pressure is on Ange Postecoglou right now. Of course, out of the League Cup, out of the FA Cup, the only thing we have left, and we are all, hoping, wishing, praying that we're going to go all the way in the Europa League. It's going to be very, very tough. Frankfurt home first, and then, of course, the Frankfurt away game in the second leg. Will Ange Postecoglou get the time in order to play these Europa League games and hopefully take us far and win the competition? Let's wait and see. But as soon as Spurs lose games, certainly in the manner that we have in the Premier League, there are always going to be these reports coming out. But as I've said before, nothing will surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Ange Postecoglou lasted the season and Spurs ended up keeping him for next season. It wouldn't surprise me if Spurs sacked him tomorrow. Nothing would surprise me anymore. I feel like as a Spurs fan, we have seen everything, and I am just prepared for any type of news coming out, whether it's a sacking tomorrow, whether it's a sacking in the summer, whether Ange resigns in the summer. Nothing would surprise me. Honestly, it wouldn't. But, talking about Iraola and Marco Silva, both of them this season have done a remarkable job in the Premier League. There are a whole cluster of teams, literally from 4th place all the way down to 10th place, where, they are all gunning for European spots. But Iraola has got Bournemouth playing some super football this season. Really, really impressed with him. He actually reminds me of a young Pochettino before, of course, Pochettino came to Spurs. But yes, played some really lovely, attractive football. Marco Silva has done a wonderful job at Fulham as well. Now, so it's going to be an interesting one to see whether Spurs do make the change or not. Of course, we're not in action now, for a couple of weeks when we play Chelsea away. But all eyes will, of course, be on the Europa League. It's weird. It just seemed really weird at the moment because, I speak to Spurs fans every day, and a number of them have just said to me, league games not interested in. I'm only going to watch Spurs now when it's Europa League. I watch Spurs, whether it's a friendly, a league game, a European game, whatever it is. It just feels really, really strange. And I don't like the fact that you see that, Tell coming over to the away end on Sunday, confronting fans, Ange Postecoglou confronting fans again. I've said this recently and I'll say it again that, the only way that Ange Postecoglou can, prove the critics and, the criticism aimed at him all of the time, just go out there and do a good job, win matches and prove people wrong. Ange Postecoglou, I just don't like the fact at the moment that he seems to be confronting fans all of the time. You've got to just block all of this stuff out. Someone joked on X earlier today that, Ange Postecoglou has confronted more fans in the last couple of months than we've won home matches, and a lot of people found it funny, but honestly, it's quite a sad situation. You've got a lot of fans arguing with one another. You've got the frustration aimed at certain players, Captain Heung-min Son. Then there's all this criticism with Postecoglou as well. The board, in my opinion, like I've said before, I felt like we needed to do things differently under Postecoglou. I feel like we need more direction. I feel like we need more ambition. We need top players to come in. Are some of these players, although there have been some really good stories this season, Jed Spence, Bergvall, Gray, etc., but as I said in the summer transfer window, and some people even called me negative, I called it realism at the time, and we needed some ready-made players. We need ready-made players to walk into the team and make a real impact immediately. I'm pinning all of my hopes, dreams, whatever you want to call them, on the Europa League. That's all we can do this season. If Spurs finish mid-table, whether it's 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, whatever it is, and we do not win that Europa League this season, then in my opinion, this season will go down as a disaster. The stats do not lie. Yes, we've had a lot of injury issues, etc. But you cannot, when you are managing a team like Tottenham Hotspur, you cannot be losing that amount of games and not deliver. This squad, I feel like Ange Postecoglou should be getting more out of this squad. And up until Sunday, I feel like I've backed Ange Postecoglou fully. But up until Sunday, resting players, making 7 changes before an international break. The last 6 international breaks, we have lost all 6 games before the international breaks. This is not a good record. It is not good enough. It is unacceptable. Postecoglou's even used those words himself. Unacceptable. It is. You cannot keep losing these sorts of games. And you certainly cannot have a different attitude going into a Premier League game saying, oh well, you know, it's pointless anyway. We're not going to get a European spot via the Premier League, and then have a different attitude with the Europa League. I'm not saying that Ange Postecoglou has. He was asked that exact question by a journalist in the press conference about his players, and he said, I certainly hope not. You know, he hoped that wasn't the case, but it could be with some players. They could just be up for the Europa League games now and not the league. And I've spoke to many Spurs fans, and even some Spurs fans say, don't worry about it. Don't worry about losing the league games. You know, we're all about the Europa League. I don't like that at all. I feel like Spurs need to be up for every single game, no matter what it is. So obviously pressure is on Ange Postecoglou. So it'll be an interesting situation, what will happen. 17 first-team players now have been called up on international duty. So let's hope that they all come back fit and well from their respective international duty appearances, etc. Fabrizio Romano has stated about Spurs being happy with Matisse Tell. I feel like there is a lot to come from Tell. I feel like we have seen little glimpses of him. He beat a couple of players on Sunday at Fulham, but couldn't quite find Dominic Solanke in the middle, which was a little bit disappointing. But he's only 19. This is exactly what I mean. You know, he's another player for the future, an exciting player for the future. But of course, as I've mentioned, you know, so many times, if you want to go to that next level, you want to go to that next step, you want to win things, etc., you need players to come in now and make that real impact. But I do like his attitude. I think he's got a lot of potential. And as Fabrizio Romano said, Tottenham are very happy with his attitude. You know, he runs an awful lot. He works extremely hard. And you know, he's not frightened to come over to the away end, is he? To confront the fans and talk to the fans about the current situation, even trying to intervene when Ange Postecoglou was confronted by a fan at the end of the game as well. He is there. He is there first, same as Jed Spence. Jed Spence was also trying to drag Ange Postecoglou away at Bournemouth away when Postecoglou had a confrontation with a fan at the end of that game. A former scout, Mick Brown, has said that Christian Romero has been linked to Real Madrid, and he seems to have inside knowledge. So, you know, there could be a lot of truth in that Real Madrid are sniffing around Christian Romero, and Spurs will be looking to sign a centre-back in the summer transfer window. If that is right, it will be extremely disappointing losing a player like Romero. His quality, of course, World Cup winner. As I said in a previous episode, in the last couple of games, AZ Alkmaar at home and Fulham away, I loved Christian Romero's attitude, and I loved the fact that he was getting really, really stuck in, and I feel like we haven't seen that for a while. But I'm going to go back to talking about the transfer window. Whatever happens in the transfer window, Spurs again, and I will say this again because I say it during most transfer windows, show some ambition, show that we're going in the right direction, because Tottenham Hotspur simply cannot be a team finishing mid-table, and we simply cannot be a team without a trophy yet again. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit the follow button and leave a review if you can. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.